I'll do a little intro. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike. I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt, and today we're joined by a very special guest. He's the Packers beat writer for The Athletic. It's Matt Schneidman. Matt.
How you guys doing?
Program.
Doing well, man.
Doing well. And like Mike mentioned, with The Athletic, wanted to hear your take on all the news. And I think the number one word is leverage, as you see behind me here. So take us through from your end, what you're hearing from the Packers, what is new. It feels like both sides are dug in and there's really a stalemate going on right now.
Yeah, I said before we started recording here, I like that your background was just Googling definition of leverage. Let me read behind you what exactly it is. No, but listen, like we were talking about, I tweeted something this morning. I think the Packers, or I should say the Jets, have the leverage before the draft because the Packers are more incentivized to get something done before the draft because they presumably need want the 2023 draft capital to build around Jordan Love right away. That 13th pick and the 15th pick, the 15th obviously being their own original pick, would do wonders in terms of adding talent either at tight end and edge rusher, whatever it may be. Now, I'm not just saying build around Jordan Love on offense. But then after the draft passes, if Joe Douglas does not give up the number 13 pick and they don't reach a deal for, I don't know, any other draft capital included in 2023, then all the leverage shifts to the Packers, I think, because the Packers are actually incentivized to wait. Because as you guys know, June 1st is the next key deadline. Mm-hmm. Once June 1st passes, the Packers do not have to take on that entire $40 million dead money hit against this year's cap. If the trade is made after June 1st, only $15 million, or I should say 15.8 about in dead money will go on 2023. Then around 24 million will go on 2024. So the Packers are actually incentivized to wait. And then beyond that, like my question is, if you ask me who has the leverage after the draft, the question is which team has the quarterback on their roster currently that they intend to start? That's the Packers. So I don't think we're going to get to that point. Let me preface that. I think they will strike a deal by the draft. Whether that's Brian Gutekunst and Joe Douglas sitting down when we're all in Phoenix later this week at the owners' meetings. I'll be headed down there this weekend.
Nice.
Maybe stuff gets done there, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if we look into the future after the draft, the Jets, sure, maybe they don't need him in the building for voluntary workouts. He already knows the offense because of his time with Nathaniel Hackett, but just in terms of getting a feel for things, meeting your new teammates, getting around the facility, the ins and outs of everything, they're going to want him there for stuff at some point this offseason and especially training camp. But that $58.3 million option bonus that one team has to pay Aaron Rodgers if he plays this season is not due until September. So Packers wouldn't have him on the roster past that, but the Jets aren't going to be like, oh, you can just come on September 1st, start for us a week later. So until the draft, Jets have all the leverage because the Packers will want that draft capital now. After the draft, it all shifts to the Packers. So I'm fascinated to see when things get done. I checked with someone with the Packers Monday morning. So what's today? Tuesday. And they're like, yeah, nothing new. Both sides are dug in. All I know about negotiations is that the Packers are not asking for 2 first-round picks. I know that was reported out there at some point.
Earlier, yeah.
My guess is the holdup is the number 13 pick, and both sides have their arguments with that one.
Did something change? Because, the whole saga when Rodgers is in the darkness and then he comes out of the darkness, and the reports that we were getting were that the Jets and Packers had agreed to the compensation. The Jets brass flew out to California to meet with Rodgers. It was said that everything was decided upon. It was up to Rodgers if he's going to play. Mm-hmm. Rodgers comes out and says, hey, I intend to play for the New York Jets. Matt created a 10-hour sound loop on YouTube of Rodgers saying, I intend to play for the New York Jets.
That's a sick individual. You got some serious problems if you do that.
Our Jets fans are using it as white noise to go to sleep. Hilarious. Unbelievable. But the thing is, what what changed so that it was never agreed upon, obviously, or maybe the Packers got sour with what Rodgers said, maybe some insight there.
Yeah, there's some more digging I have to do on that because there are some things I've been told that need to be substantiated a little bit more on what exactly changed, because it's fascinating how they gave him a 3-year, $150 million deal to make him the richest player in NFL history in terms of average annual salary on March 15th, 2022.
Right.
A year later, they're like, we're going to Jordan Love. But Brian Gutekunst has said publicly that they did that with the intention of Rodgers being their quarterback for more than just 1 year. So
Right.
How did we get here? We know from Rodgers' perspective, because he told about 500,000 people on Pat McAfee show last week, that obviously I was a little surprised that he went into his darkness retreat, 90% retiring, 10% playing.
Yeah.
And I know he said, I'm paraphrasing here, don't have a chip on my shoulder. It's not because of what Mark Murphy said, or that I found out behind my back that they're shopping me and I want to keep playing to prove someone wrong. I feel like from the past 4 seasons of covering Aaron Rodgers on a daily basis, I can kind of tell when he's bullshitting you and he's not. I don't believe that. I think, he wants to play for the Jets, but at the same time, I think there's a little bit of, you're just gonna push me out the door. Okay, then I'll prove you wrong. But I will say, and this is just me speculating, if you listen to Alan Lazard's introductory press conference, there was an interesting line in there that he said about Aaron Rodgers. Not, looking forward to 12 being my quarterback. It was, when the offseason hits, the communication with Aaron dies down, meaning he's hard to get a hold of.
Right.
So you just have to wonder, one of Aaron's biggest gripes with the Green Bay front office was, wish we would have had those face-to-face conversations or direct conversations that you wanted to move on from me. How do we know that Brian Gutekunst didn't, reach out and try to set something up, and Rodgers just didn't respond because Lazard said he's hard to get a hold of? So that's just me speculating. Bottom line is, whatever the reason may be, Aaron Rodgers wants to play for the Jets. And you know what? I wouldn't blame Jets for listening to it for 10 hours straight. It was a surreal line. We knew it was coming. We probably knew it was coming, but it was surreal to hear the words uttered after 18 years in Green Bay, after everything the Jets franchise have been through, after everything you guys have been through as fans. Surreal to hear those words come out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth.
I have one more question about this topic. We're going to get into Lazard, etc. Do you think if Rodgers doesn't hurt his thumb last year, Packers go 13-3 again, losing the playoffs, is this happening? Or, maybe some of the results last year had an impact?
Yeah, I certainly don't think they go 13-3 because
they can't. They got to go 13-4. That's all I mean.
Right. Yeah. I certainly don't think they win 13 games. I mean, they went 13-4 when he won MVP because they lost to Detroit in week 18 of the 2021 season when he only played a half. But listen, there were a lot of things that, and it wasn't just Rodgers' thumb. It was, they didn't have Devontae Adams. They had their top 2 wide receivers by the end of the year were 2 rookies. They had Sammy Watkins, who didn't know how to run routes. A lot of mental errors from the rookies. Amari Rodgers was out there returning kicks for the first 7 games. And then they decide to put Keyshawn Nixon in there, and he goes on to be a first-team All-Pro kick returner. Your 2 best offensive linemen, David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, are coming back from torn ACLs. They took a while to get going. Bakhtiari misses a month for an emergency appendectomy late in the season. So I think they make the playoffs if Rodgers doesn't break his thumb in week 5 against the Giants and play through it. But I don't think they're going any farther than they did in those NFC Championship games. Sure. But to answer your question, it's a fascinating hypothetical. Mm-hmm. The Packers drafted Jordan Love in 2020 because they thought, they think the backup quarterback is probably the second most important position in the sport, whether you agree or not. But they drafted Jordan Love because they thought Aaron Rodgers was on a slight decline. They've never come out and officially said that, but Rodgers has said that. They didn't think he had 2 back-to-back MVP seasons in him after that. That screwed up this whole timeline. The Packers probably weren't intending to start Jordan Love or sit Jordan Love for 3 years. It's probably another year, maybe 2, and then he takes over. So maybe they were just waiting for the first sign at Aaron Rodgers' decline to turn it over to Jordan Love. They could not do that after 2 MVP seasons. They had to give him that contract extension.
Yeah.
He's coming off 2 MVP seasons. And quite frankly, I still think he can win MVP. He broke his thumb. Granted, his play wasn't as good. Forget everything else. But everything I mentioned about everything around him, and this is for all the Jets fans listening, the thumb, yes. He thought he punctured a lung against the Eagles in week 12, missed the fourth quarter. He was banged up pretty much all year. But the pieces around him were not great. No. Yeah, he declined on his own a little bit, but I still think he can win MVP. So does he. But from the Packers' perspective,
love it.
I think they were maybe just looking for the first sign at a decline to move on and thought, you know what, if we don't see what we have in Jordan Love now, we never will. So we have to move on. And they were probably tired of this yearly quote unquote drama, if you even want to call it that, with Rodgers. So thought, you know what, we're just going to Jordan Love.
It's drama. It's drama.
It's a lot of drama.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I still think you guys, assuming this trade does eventually go down, which I think it will have a quarterback who's capable of winning the MVP again.
Be a hell of a feeling. It'll be a hell of a feeling. Ooh. So there's been a little beef between Packers fans and Jet fans on Twitter.
So good.
Peter Bukowski, I should say. Are you familiar with Pete? I'm sure you are, but he's been really in the mud. Peter Bukowski, I believe, regarding Jet fans, the 13th overall pick, saying it has to be 13. Are you, from your perspective, would the Packers take a second round pick this year and a conditional 4th the following year that would become a 3, given the Jets make the playoffs, a 2, given they make the AFC Championship game, and maybe that even turns to a 1 if the Jets make the Super Bowl, then throw in Corey Davis? Does that get the job done, or do the Packers still say no to that offer?
Yeah, I try. Listen, I see everything on Twitter. I'm a human being, as we all do. Even though I have dealt out my fair share of mutes over my 4 years covering this team. No, I'm not saying him specifically. I'm just saying just getting in the mud in general. Mm-hmm. I think, and I've seen it all, I think, and this is teasing a story Zach Rosenblatt and I have coming out where we basically trade Slack messages, and he's Joe Douglas, I'm Brian Gutekunst. We are currently at a crossroads at the offers we're presenting each other, because if I'm the Packers, first of all, if I'm the Jets, Joe Douglas is doing his job. He does not want to give up the number 13 pick. He says, if we only have 1 year of Aaron Rodgers, we need to make sure this roster is best built to win a Super Bowl. He doesn't want to give up his top draft pick because he sees the immediate impact his rookies had last year. What's to say that number 13 overall pick is not the difference between a Super Bowl title, maybe making one play as opposed to not making it? The Packers are more of a team that, with Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker, their first round picks last year, I don't want to say they're more developmental guys, but they didn't really need them to have immediate instant impacts. They weren't the number one guy at their position. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner. Those are guys that can be the difference between a Super Bowl and not. So Joe Douglas is absolutely right to not want to give up that number 13 pick. On the other side, Brian Gutekunst is absolutely right to want it, because that's the price of doing business. Yes, you might only get Aaron Rodgers for 1 year, but this is your ticket to Super Bowl contention. And if I'm Brian Gutekunst in those negotiations, I'm saying, Joe, you haven't had a quarterback this good in your franchise's history. He gives you an automatic ticket to the playoffs, pretty much,
and to keep your job, because Douglas will be fired given that the Jets go 7-10.
If they go 7-10 again, it's not just Joe, it's Robert Saleh, it's Nathaniel Hackett. Mm-hmm. This buys you job security. It buys you a playoff ticket. It buys you Super Bowl contention. If that's not worth the number 13 pick to you, then you don't really want this guy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, so both sides have a good argument. The deal I proposed to Zach was the number 13 pick, a 2025 conditional 4th that becomes a 3rd if Rodgers plays 50% of the offensive snaps in 2024. So he doesn't just play 1 year. Sure. It becomes a 2nd if the Jets make the playoffs, and it becomes a 1st if they make the Super Bowl. Plus Corey Davis, because
if the Jets make the Super Bowl, you could take me, take my family, do whatever you want.
You could take the entire 2023 or 2025 draft class, all 3 of the draft class, every pick.
Mike Ditka traded the whole Saints draft class for Ricky Williams. Yeah. he had like a 900 yards. So we'll take this.
Yeah, but it's just a matter of who gives up first. Like I said, both sides are completely justified in their points of view, the ones I just laid out. So it's a matter of who's gonna let up first.
Well, because of course Aaron Rodgers is worth a first round pick, but things are all relative, right? So the Jets are bidding against themselves at this point. They've narrowed it down to 2 teams. Rodgers has come out and said he wants to play for the Jets. So that's the holdup, But that's the thing. It's weird. You look online. Packers fans are like, "Give us, Sauce Gardner." Like,
I think those are like the trolls.
They're ridiculous.
Want to get there,
those are fake.
Then it's us.
Yeah.
And then me and you are tweeting. We're like, "We'll give you a 7th rounder in like 2025." It's got to be that. It's just the 13th pick. That's the holdup. Got to be.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there? Yeah. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Matt LaFleur likes Corey Davis because they were together in Tennessee when LaFleur was the offensive coordinator there in
I forgot he was the OC
2017.
Yeah, right before he went to Green Bay. Yeah.
I believe Corey Davis got 8 touchdowns that year, if I'm not mistaken, with LaFleur as his offensive coordinator. But
Check you.
listen, I don't know if the Packers are going to be like, listen, just throw him in the deal because, we don't want to have to battle for him as a free agent. We like him. We'll see if he can kind of fill the role that Alan Lazard had. Or if they say, yeah, we'll take a 2nd round pick, but now you have to give us Elijah Moore. I don't know if they want Denzel Mims, but
Well, the interesting thing is with Elijah Moore is the Jets have been rumored to be interested in OBJ and would in that case move Elijah Moore anyway. Because Corey Davis is going to be gone. Once you sign Alan Lazard as the Jets, Corey Davis, his $10 million, it has to come off the books.
But don't you think Mike LaFleur calls Matt LaFleur and he's like, "Hey, Elijah Moore was really an asshole," and they got into an all-out fight at a practice one time where I don't know.
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
But
he was an asshole too.
Yeah,
Elijah
the
Moore
Packers
really
want Elijah Moore. Like that would be awesome to add. You don't have to go after a Jackson Smith and Jigba then in the draft at 15, which the Packers have now. So getting Elijah Moore is great. But I feel like another holdup is the Packers can't come back empty-handed. And Joe Douglas has really dished out some tough trades for a Seattle team that looks back on that trade being what could have been that roster and how Geno had a resurgence if they didn't give up 2 1s to get Jamal Adams, who hasn't played for them in a year and a half, basically. So I don't think the Packers want to come back and be like, yeah, we got a 3rd round pick in conditional 4, right? They need to come back to the table. And I feel like that also happened where they had a trade in place, probably a good foundation. And then when Rodgers goes on McAfee, they come back and say, okay, we need a little bit more. Now, do you think a 13-15 pick swap, of course, more added in there, could be beneficial to the Packers as well? Because if you move up 2 spots in the 1st round from 15 to 13, that's probably worth in the back end like a 3rd or a 4th in value. That could also be an addition as well. But Matt, from your perspective, do you think it gets, if you're a betting man, which I'm assuming you are you betting that this happens by April 27th draft night?
I am a betting man, not on the NFL since we're not allowed to, according to New York Times rules. But yeah, I think it does. Now, I think another possibility is this near $60 million that whatever team Rodgers plays for is going to have to pay him in that option bonus that's guaranteed once he plays. I think there's a possibility that the Jets say, okay, we'll give you number 13, but you have to pay some of that $60 million. So we're not on the hook for all of that. And that could be a compromise here because the Packers are in pretty decent cap shape. Not, I think they're 4th in cap space right now, but that still accounts for, they haven't really made any free agent signings. They still got to pay for draft picks, offseason signings, whatever. So it's not as much as it seems, I don't think. But that's another compromise here. Ultimately, I think Brian Gutekunst, yes, the Packers have all the leverage after the draft, but also they don't want Rodgers just hanging around. I said the other day, if Jordan Love walks in for the first day of mandatory minicamp or training camp, and that Rodgers 12 nameplate is on a locker right next to his because Rodgers is still on the roster, like, it's my job. We have to ask about it. Like, what the hell's going on here? Like, it's a huge distraction. Even if Rodgers isn't physically there, if he's still on the roster and Jordan Love's the face of the offense now. So Packers definitely want to get this over with. Brian Gutekunst is just playing a little hardball. Yeah. If I was to bet on it, I would say, yes, it is done by April 27th. I don't think it'll be as simple as, oh, the Packers get 13 for Aaron Rodgers and Corey Davis. There's definitely going to be a more complicated package like we both just floated out there, but I think it does get done before the draft.
Yeah.
Well, I sure hope so.
Matt,
what are your thoughts on Alan Lazard? The interesting thing about him is statistically not great. Good years. Seems like he's good in the red zone. Projects as a terrific blocker. What are the Jets fans who are going to watch Lazard going to get out of him this year?
Yeah, Packers loved him, and it's a pretty good story how he went from undrafted free agent in 18, cut by the Jaguars. I believe my first year covering the Packers was 19. He was cut on roster cut down day and then blossomed into this really reliable role player who Aaron Rodgers loves. He's not the fastest. He's not going to take the top off of defense all the time, but he's got pretty solid hands. He knows the routes. Like you said, his numbers don't pop off the chart, but there's more value to these receivers who know Aaron Rodgers well. Like Randall Cobb on 31 teams has very little value. On any team with Aaron Rodgers, he has very good value. Last year, he was, I think he finished 12th in the NFL in yards after catch per reception. He's a weapon on third downs. Yeah, he's 32, 33 years old, but if you put him with Aaron Rodgers, someone who has that rapport with him, that unspoken connection, his value skyrockets. Same thing with Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
31 teams without Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he'll be a solid role player, but his value skyrockets if you have a guy like Rodgers, just because of all those hand signals and unspoken, Rodgers can give you a look at the line of scrimmage and it means to do something. That takes time. That adds an extra element to the offense. And he has that with Rodgers. Blocking is another thing. Lazard has always said he's the best blocking receiver in the NFL. I think he has a strong case for that. His nicknames here were War Daddy and Goon, because they love how he did all the dirty work. You won't find a player in the locker room who does not like Alan Lazard. He always said he would rather lay a block to spring, a big run than make a big catch. He can do both. There was that viral clip from when they beat the Dolphins on Christmas Day this year.
Killed 3 guys.
When he killed 3 guys with one block. He got fined. That fine was eventually rescinded, I believe.
He got fined for that play?
Yeah, because after the not for the play itself, but after the play, he counted out each guy that he blocked.
Yeah.
So they said that was taunting, even though it wasn't called in real time.
But
in Alan Lazard, you're not getting a number 1. You might not even be getting a true number 2, but you're getting the NFL's best number 3 who will do everything that a coach loves. And Nathaniel Hackett loves him. They were together in Jacksonville. They were together in Green Bay. They're together here again with the Jets. So it's not like Lazard's going into an environment where, he has to, develop his own role again. You got guys who know how to maximize him because they've done it before in both Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett.
A great point. It's a great point. Now we only have 5 minutes left according to Zoom. So Matt, I'm going to hit you with one last question here.
All right.
I saw you on Kay Adams' show where you talked about your relationship with Rodgers. You told a great story regarding going with him one-on-one at his locker, going through every guy that caught a touchdown. And what you hear from all the players outside of Greg Jennings, who has played with Rodgers, all they do is talk about how much of a great teammate. The media is tough on him. I feel like a lot of the COVID stuff came up and the vaccine stuff, and the media went away from Rodgers being a well-liked figure. Outside of the drama and his family, like not talking to his family.
Other than that,
why does the NFL media portray Rodgers in that way? And outside of some darkness retreats, are the Jets fans truly going to get a headache of a player, or are they going to get a guy that's going to come here on a revenge tour and win a goddamn Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'm glad we have about 4.5 minutes because this is a little bit of a complicated answer. So listen, I'll preface it with this. Like I said, I've been covering him since July 2019 on a pretty much daily basis. And there have been a handful of things that we haven't seen eye to eye on, not, him and I going at it in person, but things he's said, how he's played, things he's done. What I'm about to say is not me saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers can do no wrong. I've publicly called him out on Twitter for, stuff he's said on McAfee, but he's still given me one-on-one interviews after that. And I know for a fact he sees what I tweet, because there have been multiple occasions where I've tweeted things that he has not agreed with, and he's privately DM'd me about them. But that's a story for another day. I don't think he'll have a problem with me saying that. But listen, he is incredibly thoughtful and available for a superstar athlete. His answers with the media and just talking to my colleagues around the NFL, you're not going to find a better guy to cover, to follow. whether it's being in the locker room as a beat writer every day or listening to his press conferences, it's some of the most insightful, in-depth answers that he puts a lot of effort into. He is not one of those guys who just gets up at his locker and spews BS, PC bullcrap every Wednesday. You know, he talked to us for 15 minutes at his locker every Wednesday. Not only that, he would sit around and shoot the shit with everyone. And there are a lot of stories that I have from the last 4 years. Yes, you can disagree with stuff he's done, stuff he said. I have as well. But there are just as many stories that paint him in such a positive light. And I think it's easy to get at him because he's probably the most newsworthy, relevant figure in the NFL in terms of a player. He says controversial things, and you've seen and for the longest time, he didn't, publicly go back at people who said some of those things. Now
Right.
we've seen with his new platform on McAfee, he has the chance to do so. He can tell Aaron Rodgers to lose or he can tell Adam Schefter to lose his number.
So
And
good.
I'm surprised he didn't. Him and I have had many a private conversation off the record over the years. Over these past couple months, I have no problem saying this. I hit him up a couple times because he has gotten on me in the past about reporting things without checking with him directly first.
Go check with him. You did it.
I won't specify the exact instance, but there was one time where he essentially called me out privately for, reporting something that in his eyes was wrong. And then he clarified it for me. So over the past couple months, I've reached out to him a couple times privately, looking for context on the whole situation. Like, there are reports out here, want to do my job right. I'm going out to you. I haven't gotten a response yet. So I am just glad. I don't know if glad's the right word.
He didn't say to lose your number.
He didn't tell me to lose his number.
That's good.
I don't have his cell phone number, but it's another form of communication. It's on Twitter DMs, but he didn't tell me to lose his Twitter.
Lose my handle.
But I will say I think the Jets are getting a guy who will not say he's on a revenge tour, but he definitely does have a chip on his shoulder.
Good.
I'm fascinated to see, because for all the talk about the Green Bay media is soft, New York media is not, whatever. My point is, there are going to be questions asked that he's not asked in Green Bay because people like prodding into personal lives and stuff that doesn't have to do with football. I'm fascinated to see how he handles that confrontation. He's a grown man. He's almost 40 years old. He can handle it. But I'm interested to see the back and forth between New York media and Rodgers. Yes, it's going to be a headache at sometimes, especially if there are storylines that aren't around football. But you're getting a guy who is going to resuscitate your franchise, be a hell of an entertaining figure to follow and watch play. So I am excited for the Aaron Rodgers era in New York, and I'm fascinated to see how it plays out.
Can't wait, man. Can't wait. Over under, after being traded 3 days, Rich Samini and Aaron Rodgers have beef together on a question he asked. But Matt,
my fellow Syracuse guy, Rich Sweeney.
Yeah.
I'm going over. You